I'm Megan Kate Swan, private chef, and I'm here today with Leigh, co-owner of Rascallion, and I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks today on how to best braai your lamb chops and boerewors. We're going to start off by pouring some Rascallion 45 RMP, which is a great red to enjoy with braai because it's nice and light and easy drinking. And Leigh, have you had this one before?
I have. It's really nice with the braai, as you say, because it's also got, you know how they put cloves and coriander and aniseed sometimes in the boerewors, and that it's got those flavors coming off it as well, and it just complements a braai very, very well.
Yes, and I think, you know, a lot of people think white and beer and those kind of things are only good with the braai, but I think it's also nice to have an easy drinking red to enjoy whenever you want, however you want, during the summer, not only in the winter.
100%. Yeah, you can even have it a bit chilled if you like they do in Europe.
Yes.
If it's on a hot summer's night or something and you're braaiing and you feel like a red. Thank you.
There we go. Let's have a little
Chin chin.
chin chin. Very easy.
Lovely colour.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful.
Because it's got some good legs.
It does indeed.
It does. Yeah. Right, so what we're going to be doing today is just braaiing off some nice lamb chops and some boerewors. I find a lot of the time people overcomplicate braaiing. Keep it simple, keep it fresh, keep it light, and you've got a winning recipe. So with our lamb chops, my family recipe and something that my dad has done my entire life is just a very simple rub, which is salt, pepper, and fresh rosemary chopped up. I don't put olive oil onto my chops, as chops have a lot of natural fat themselves. So I find that when you add olive oil, you rub them in olive oil, it can actually make the fat get a bit hard with too much fat.
Yes. Okay.
So a dry brine or a dry rub is always better for a lamb chop, in my opinion. And with our boerewors, we're just going to keep it simple, natural. This is the wild peacock boerewors, and obviously the wild peacock lamb chops. And I don't obviously mess with boerewors because the person that's made it has spent time and love and energy into the boerewors. So what I just like to do, which is a simple trick, but it's quite nice, is I'll take some rosemary, or over here I've got some indigenous kapokbos, which is actually African rosemary.
Right.
And I'll basically just, what do you call this?
I can smell the fragrance. You strip it down.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I kind of just strip it down, and if you can't get hold of this, you can also get long stem normal rosemary, but this is just nice because it's local, it's indigenous, and a lot of the time you'll find it growing in gardens in South Africa. And I'll just strip it like that, and then what I do is I kind of just take it through the boerewors. You've got to kind of be a bit forceful.
It's got quite a strong stem.
Yeah, that's why I like this rosemary, because sometimes the what do you call it? The normal rosemary you get in the store
rosemary,
is
can
a bit
be quite soft.
Yeah, and weak and short. So I normally just do about 3 because an even number is always good when it comes to food. Just got to make sure I'm threading it through the right way. He's got a mind of his own here.
Yes.
But it's okay.
The boerewors is quite thick.
Yeah. And I think the main thing with boerewors, and I think we'll always know from all the braais we go to in South Africa, men are always like, don't dry out my boerewors.
Yes.
So that's the most important thing when it comes to wors, is to not dry it out. So that's basically what's going to happen now. Is it's just going to be easier when you flip it.
Yes, for sure.
So it's not going to pull apart, that kind of thing.
So you've got the flavour,
Yeah.
and it makes it easier.
So I just missed a guy there, so that's fine. Just push it through. And if you don't have any rosemary and you don't have anything fancy, you can always just do kebab sticks.
Yes.
I just think it's a nice trick because it helps with even cooking. It doesn't get too dry. It keeps the moisture in.
I think that's great.
So that's that little trick. And then for my lamb chops, so I'm going to take some of this rosemary because it's got more of a fragrant flavour. And this is some beautiful thyme. Is this from your garden?
Yeah, I like
beautiful.
it.
And this from your garden?
Yeah, the rosemary as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just going to strip the rosemary. A lot of the time people use herbs from a jar, and that's okay. Sometimes we don't have access to fresh herbs.
Or dried herbs.
So when it comes to lamb, like rosemary and lamb, there's no better match. It's like a match in heaven, and I just think that it's something that shouldn't be spared. So if you can get hold of fresh rosemary,
Yes.
it's best. And it's also very important to have it nice and fine, because you don't want to like be eating your lamb chop and get big pieces.
That's the thing with rosemary. It can be quite
obtuse.
It can be thicker, yes, than other herbs. Yeah.
So sometimes I even pop my rosemary into the NutriBullet.
Oh, okay.
And just kind of blend it up. So what I do with my lamb chops, I use some molten salt. I love molten salt, it's a very chefy thing, but I find it just gives a lovely salted flavor with not too much bitterness, because normal table salt can be quite bitter. And then I'll just do some nice black pepper. So then what I'll do is I'll add my fresh rosemary, and I will then kind of turn it over, each little guy, and I will season with a bit more salt. So another thing that's very important, something that I've learned over the years, is to always make sure that your meat hits the flame at room temperature. So whether it's a steak you're doing in a pan or you're working on the braai, you want your meat to be at room temperature. The reason for this is because the protein in the meat, if it's cold and it hits the heat, it's going to contract very quickly, because like it gets a shock.
Yes.
When you put your meat on room temperature onto the braai, the protein can slowly adapt to the temperature. It's not such a shock to it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
and then your meat is obviously more tender like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we've just taken our meat off the braai and we've served it on a lovely wooden board. We've got a nice spicy chakalaka to complement the boerewors and some fresh lemon to complement the lamb chops. So our lamb chops are nice and crispy, aromatic from the rosemary, and our wors is nice and juicy, slightly pink with our chakalaka, and it's the perfect pairing with the 45 RPM.
Cheers.